Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Mi-chael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Mi-chael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Mi-chael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Mi-chael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Mi-chael and Jeannie Ryce.
And the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Mi-chael Ryce, the Forgiveness Doctor. And today is day 29 of our Memorial Day celebration. And our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Hi, Mi-chael.
Hi, sweetie. Welcome, everybody. We're delighted that you're here. We're honored to be able to share the tools of forgiveness, of the ancient Aramaic idea of forgiveness, and the invitation that you put that tool to work in your life. And that tool is not about letting other people off the hook because there's pain in you. That tool is about supporting you, going inside yourself and removing what never belonged. And so our celebration of Memorial Day, as Jeannie speaks about, the 29th day, is the invitation that you help to disappear war from earth. Let's really honor those people who've been forced to murder, been murdered, been injured, been maimed, brought those injuries, those maims, those scars home, and bring healing to this game called war. There's a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh that has done some awesome work on the planet. Shortly after 9/11, he wrote a very profound statement. And, of course, we're out there fighting terrorism with more terrorism. You know, we call it shock and awe, and that somehow we're supposed to make it all right to terrorize people with shock and awe. And when you look at, last week on our show, David gave us some statistics, and, it looks like about 35 or 36 people a day commit suicide who are either active service persons or retired service persons. And on the retired side, that looks like about 16 people a day. And that's with about a quarter. That's the actual official statistics from the VA. And apparently only about a quarter of the vets who have been involved in war have anything to do with the VA. So the number could potentially be at least 4 times higher. So terror will not produce healing of terror. Forgiveness will. And so here's what Thich Nhat Hanh says. He says, terror is in the human heart. We must remove this from the heart. And, of course, that's the Aramaic definition of forgiveness. We must remove it from the heart. This is destroying the human heart, both physically and psychologically, and it's what we should avoid. The root of terrorism is hatred, misunderstanding, and violence. This root cannot be located by the military. Bombs and missiles cannot reach it, let alone destroy it. Only with the practice of calming and looking deeply within can our insight reveal and identify the root of terrorism. Only with the practice of deep listening and compassion can it be transformed and removed. Darkness cannot be dissipated with more darkness. More darkness will only make the darkness thicker. Only light can dissipate darkness. Those of us who have the light should display the light and offer it so that the world will not sink into total darkness. And in my workshops, I love to use a little tongue-in-cheek line of, nobody has ever invented a flash dark. You turn it on and all the darkness fills the room. Because darkness is an absence. And what we're looking to do is to bring the presence of love back into humanity. We're looking to bring human life back into humanity and support that throughout the globe to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And so people might ask, well, what is human life? We have a very easy definition. Go hold a newborn child, and you know exactly what human life is. Be restored to that, and you'll become a contributor to the eradication of war from the planet. So we invite you to take one issue that you're willing to work with today, and we suggest using the Aramaic process of forgiveness, which you can find on our website. You can download it freely. You can download the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again?, which walks a character named Richard through the forgiveness process. And you can download it in English, German, Russian, Spanish, and Farsi. You can order the book in Swedish, but the Swedish publisher wouldn't let us put it on the site free, so it's not there free. And if you go to the site, www.whyagain.com, www.whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. The first 4 items now are the good ones to start with. The first one is a copy of the final chapter of the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again?, where we speak about the new discoveries in Aramaic forgiveness. The second link is a 7-step reality management or forgiveness worksheet. The third link is a copy of our radio show from back in February, where Pamela Gregory came on the air with us and bravely had us walk her through a worksheet. So there's this full set of instructions on the website. Was there a fourth item you put in that list, honey? I was thinking there was.
If people go down, though, about 4 items, there's a statement. It says the following 2 online worksheets are still in the test phase. If you use them, please send us back feedback. One of them is the reality management worksheet, and it's the 7-step one, and it's online. And then the other one is the Name That Drag-On and Cling-On game. And, of course, then the Building Brain Cells has its own link now, so it's got its own page. So all of those things are out there now.
Cool. Awesome, Jeannie. Thank you for all that you do with that website. So this idea of removing from our own hearts, it's identical. Here's a Buddhist monk who's saying identical things to what was said 2,000 years ago in the Aramaic. He said, you must forgive from your heart the wrongs of your brother. And in that ancient Aramaic language, the word heart is the unconscious. The worksheet shows you how to crack the code of your own unconscious, come back into direct relationship with whatever's hidden there, bring it forward to light, and heal it. So that's what we're looking to do. So you can do all the belief you want. You can say, I believe, I believe, I believe. This is not about belief. There's a work to be done. It's an ancient work. It is the work of true healing. And, of course, the non-being mind, that is the mind based in hostility or fear. We talk in this work about a mind of being, which is that newborn mind, that mind that is totally, completely connected to love. And then there's the insane mind, and we define insanity as a mind without the active presence of love. So then we have this insane mind, which we call non-being, and, whatever's familiar to that non-being mind, if it's hostility, fear, rage, grief, it says, I don't like this, but it's comfortable, and it will continue because it's effortless to do that. And so we're inviting you to step into the true work of healing and the work of returning to being. And, from the state of non-being, it seems like it's impossible to do, and it's very discomforting. The truth is that living in fear and hostility is difficult. It's an extremely difficult way to live, but if it's habitual, it's effortless. And so we're inviting you to step out of your comfort zone, pick up the pen and put it on the paper, and do some forgiveness of any reality that you hold that is less than the active presence of love, less than your human life. So you'll move out of your comfort zone. It'll take effort. And unfortunately, it's a work that few choose to engage in because it does take effort. And it does mean that you're going to change. And you're not going to be part of the crowd when you really, truly start doing your work. As you step in and begin to heal, a lot of conversations, a lot of ways of so-called living are not very appealing. So David and Terry, how are you gentlemen today? Hello, David. Hello, Terry.
Hello?
Or Tim, pardon me. Tim, I meant Tim.
Oh, I was waiting for Terry or David to answer.
Okay.
I'm doing well. Actually, I'm sitting here with Les and Jen and Owen and Bill. I'm actually sitting out on the patio while they're inside listening to it on the computer, and because of the feedback within it's both of them can't be in the same room at the same time. And so sitting here, they may have a question, or you may have to comment something to them, respond, and then I can give them the phone. We can turn one of the speakers down. But everything is going well.
Awesome. Welcome to People's Family. Some of our radio audience is familiar with you folks. You've been on the show a few times. And it's a delight to have you in America. Welcome to America. Welcome to Heartland. We're absolutely blessed and honored that you're going to be with us for the next 3 months, and looking forward to getting to play with you.
They said that they're going to type in. They're doing the chat line, and I'm sitting at the phone.
Okay, cool.
So then
Tim, how do you be today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Had a beautiful weekend, relaxing, and just happy to be able to celebrate another Memorial Day and work on getting a little bit more of that irritation and frustration out of my system. Doing very well.
Well, I certainly join you in that, and we're in a little different place than we've been for the last couple of months. Those who've been listening to the show for a while, we were in Las Vegas for several weeks, and then out in Oregon, Ashland and Medford, Oregon. And Friday, 4 in the morning, left the house to get on an airplane, arrived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So we're at an alternative healing center called the Regency Resort. We just did a keynote address to the conference here, and tomorrow morning at 6 we head off to the airport again to head to Tennessee. So we are on the road. I'm delighted to be sharing forgiveness with you. And Jeannie, do you have anything in the chat room to share with us? Okay. Awesome. Owen, you are most welcome to be there. I look forward to seeing your sweet face.
So, Michael, what did you talk about in your keynote?
What else would I talk about? Why is this happening to me again?
A specific aspect of it, or you just gave the whole lecture?
No, we did a kind of a shortened version of the worksheet process and the whole Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. We did a 2-hour version of it. So it was well received. It was fun. It's in a 2-hour presentation. It's a lot for somebody to take in. So we've been talking to different people throughout the weekend. We actually did our presentation Friday night. We were one of the opening keynotes, and so we just be moving forward here, and just honored and blessed to be supporting people in learning to understand the real process of healing, the real process of going inside ourselves. And Thich Nhat Hanh really describes it well. And darkness can't get rid of darkness. You can't drop enough bombs. You can't be murderous enough to eliminate darkness, because of course being murderous is darkness. And he says it very well. And so when we bring the light of a true human life into the experience of our physiology, it's awesome how everything changes. And, of course, it takes stepping out of the comfort zone. And if you choose to engage there, but fortunately we don't need everybody, because we understand critical mass. And critical mass means we just need to get enough people through the gate who will actually live a human life. that is going to bring transformation to the whole of the human race. And so we're here to support that happening. We're here to honor our vets by healing our part in the process of war.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think it's happening. I ran across another couple lines in another book that sound like they came right out of your work. And I was talking to someone this morning about the issue of this person was trying to create the attitude of allowance and acceptance within themselves. And I offered that state of allowance and acceptance is just a byproduct of recognizing that you are the active presence of love. And so whenever they realize they're not in allowance, they could pull out a worksheet and get to the root of whatever it was within them that is not allowing them to act from that state of love.
Right.
And that is so much more beneficial than sitting and chanting, I will allow, I will allow, I will allow, which I coined or told them is what Mi-chael Ryce calls premature positive thinking. So maybe you could talk about that a bit. Since I find a lot of people want to do that. They want to just sit and chant and think loving thoughts and then assume everything's going to be okay. But then, of course, when it turns out not to be okay, it's somebody else's fault. So,
yeah, there's a wonderful line in the Course in Miracles. A lot of people that work with Course in Miracles are, well, it's all about light and love. That's all we do. And there's one of my favorite passages of the Course because it invites people to bypass this premature positive thinking game. And that is, it says, you may wonder why you must look upon your hatred and realize its full extent. And that goes on to say it's because it's not in its own foundation. There's something underneath it, and you've got to get to what's underneath. And if we never get to what's underneath, it's kind of like the person who would say, we have this smelly cesspool in the backyard, but what we're going to do is we're going to take some ice cream and put over it, so then the cesspool will be okay. And that, to me, is the same as premature positive thinking. Positive thinking is a wonderful, awesome thing to do, but if it's on top of a negative foundation, you can only go so far, and I think a lot of people who are positive thinkers but haven't shored up their foundation kind of end up being type A personalities. They always have to be hanging on. They always have to be locked into, got to be positive, got to be positive. Like it's not their natural state. It's something they force over top of negative states. And, I use the example of building a building. So you're building a building, and you want to build a 100-story skyscraper. Let's be a positive thinker. Let's build a foundation for a 1-story building and then put a 100-story skyscraper on it. What's going to happen? The 100-story skyscraper isn't going to get up to 10 stories, and it's going to fall over. It's going to break down because this foundation isn't there to hold it. So to start to look inside of ourselves at whatever hostilities and fears we might hold and be willing to address and forgive those things, and again, forgiveness is how I go inside myself and remove what never belonged there. Hostility and fear do not belong in human physiology. Never have, never will. Never will support. Never will benefit. Can't. Impossible. And I have people say, well, but isn't anger natural? Isn't it good for you? I mean, we're all born with fear. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? It's like, no. Well, if I didn't have fear, I would put my hand on the hot stove and burn it. It's like, well, gee, I probably don't need fear in order to go hot, burn things. I don't think I'll put my hand there. Intelligence does those things. And yes, we are born with fear hardwired in because we come from generations and generations of people who don't know how to deal with and don't know how to remove their fears. That doesn't mean it's beneficial. That doesn't mean it's useful. And so when you recognize that, then you begin to address hostility and fear. One of the recent additions to the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop comes out of an idea actually that Jeannie seeded a while back, and she used an example with somebody of a horse being used to plow. And if you've got a horse and it doesn't have blinders on, it sees all around it, and it can choose whatever's all around it. And, if there's a filly off to the right, if there's a bucket of oats off to the left, the horse isn't going to plow a straight line. It's heading for that filly or for that those oats. So you put a set of blinders on it to restrict its choice so that it can't see outside of what it is forced by whoever's running it to see. And my input would be that hostility and fear are the blinders. Left eye, hostility, right eye, fear. Now, instead of the 360-degree intelligence and vision that we're designed to have as human beings, we're restricted to about 40 degrees by a set of blinders. And, it's easy to verify. The way we verify it at the beginning of each Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, it's Jeannie will ask the question, how many have ever done something they regret? And, of course, a certain number of people will raise their hand. And then we'll ask the question, what were you feeling that motivated you to do what you regretted? Absolutely 1,000% of the time, the answer, I don't care where we ask it on the planet, the answer is always some variation on the theme of hostility or fear. So what you're telling me is that you did what you regretted. You did something that was against your principles, your own will and choice, because you're in hostility or fear. And you're going to tell me you still want to value hostility or fear? It's crazy on its face. When we get connected to love, we have our highest levels of intelligence. And so take the blinders off, folks. If your physiology can produce any form of hostility or fear, apply forgiveness to that hostility or fear to remove it. That's what forgiveness is about. If I happen to show up and bring up, I turn my head the wrong way and you go into your hostility, instead of blaming me for your hostility, instead of forgiving me for your hostility, recognize that I've given you a gift of resonating your hostility, and what you could be doing is applying forgiveness to that to remove that blinder so that you will always be in your highest and best mind and making your highest and best choices. Seems like a pretty simple no-brainer, but it's amazing how people just argue for that limitation. There's a great line in Richard Bach's Illusions. He says, argue for your limitations and they're yours. I met with a psychologist out west last week, and he's telling me about how great, positive guilt and fear are. And it's like, excuse me, everybody who's in guilt and fear does what they regret. What's positive about that? What's useful about that? But, he was coming from a religious perspective as a Christian psychologist, quote unquote, supposedly Christian, and his whole conversation was how great fear and positive guilt was. Like, well, if you want people to be stupid and do things that don't serve them, you want them to be in regret. Teach that, but sounds pretty much on the other side of the fence to me from what man this fellow proclaimed he was following. But then, of course, when you interpret love through a hostile, fearful mind, you get to put some of your own hostility and fear in there, and of course it becomes valuable and useful, and people want to hang on to it. How would our world look? How would things look in the Middle East? How would things look in Ireland? How would things look in Africa? How would things look in Tibet and China? How would things look in the inner cities in America if for one 24-hour period all hostility and fear were disappeared from the planet? What an awesome shift would take place. Now, you can help that to happen if you choose to own, be responsible for, and forgive any hostility or fear that you have in you. Don't positive think on top of it. Don't tell me how wonderful it is. Just be right there with, is this based in hostility? Is this based in fear? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the tool of forgiveness. And if you've never used the tool of forgiveness that we're teaching, please go to the website, www.whyagain.com. Right-hand side of the page, download worksheets. First 3 items, there's how forgiveness works. Full, total explanation. Please put the pen to the paper and start to use it. We're here to take this tool to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. Darkness will not extinguish darkness. Only light will. And guess what? We're made of light. You and I are made of light. Somebody told us something different. It's a lie. That's all. It's just a lie. Time to give up the lies. So what do you think, Tim?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think the fabulous part about this work is that aside from being willing, that's all it takes. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of intelligence or courage. I just have to have the willingness to get rid of the stuff that's in me that hasn't worked all these years. And then, as you just mentioned, the light within me does the healing. And it's a light that was put there by my Creator, and it's not anything that I'm responsible for maintaining or creating. It's just what keeps me present, what keeps me alive and functioning. And it has the capacity to, it's a natural state that has the capacity to obliterate darkness.
You have to go back to the ancient Aramaic where you hear Yeshua saying, I am the light of the world. The only thing that changed when he made that statement and said, you are the light of the world, was the pronoun. Every other word was exactly the same. You are the light of the world. Of course, you're not the light of the world if you're in hostility or fear, if you're in darkness. And in Aramaic, there's a cool quote. I don't remember exactly where it is, but basically it says something to the effect of, the eye is the lamp of the soul. If the light for you is darkness, how deep will your darkness become? When you think about that with that Greek translation, it's like, what does that mean? Well, like the eye, I'm going to take my eye, that's the lamp of the soul. What? And in Aramaic, what it's saying is, as opposed to the physical eye, it was talking about the perceptual eye. Perception is the light for your earthly light. If the light for you is darkness, darkness in Aramaic is hostility and fear. If the light for you is darkness, how deep will your darkness become? So if you're following the advice of an hostile, fearful mind, how crazy is your life going to get? It's going to get pretty bizarre because darkness leads us into darkness. Jeannie, you've got a call for us.
Well, actually, Jen, and she says someone once told her, don't totally get rid of your anger. You might need it one day. What do you make of that?
Well, I would say that if you want darkness to be the light for your journey through the world, hang on to darkness.
Oh, that's not right.
Let go of darkness. If you want to have light be your continuous guide, then forgive the darkness. And hostility, anger, is darkness. In Aramaic, hostility and fear are both anger, are both darkness. So what Yeshua is saying there is if the light, that is the guide you follow, is darkness, then what kind of crazy things will you do to destroy yourself? I've never had anybody, when Jeannie or I ask the question, how many have ever done something they regret? And the list we get is what state were you in? What emotional condition were you in when you did what you regretted? And it's always rage and sadness and grief and pain and hatred and vengeance and greed and on and on goes the list. I've never had one person that said they did something they regretted when they were in this awesome, wonderful, loving space. It doesn't happen. We're designed to live a life based in the active presence of love. That's our human lives. It is a con to try to make out that anything to do with hostility or fear could possibly serve you. Now, if you're in darkness and you tap into the light, could you perhaps turn that hostility or fear around after you've used it? Yes, with light you could. But darkness just breeds more darkness. It's just, it's kind of simple physics. Did I hear your voice there, Jen? Were you on the phone? I guess not. So
it did sound like her. Let me step inside here for a moment. Yeah, because I had something. Hold on just a moment. Were you on, Jen? Yeah. Okay. He's talking to you now. He wants to have he wants some feedback from you now. He just now asked. Hey, Michael.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was her.
So are you still there, Jen?
There's a little delay, so she may be saying something in a moment.
It's not picking up. Are you on Skype or?
No, not on Skype. He can't hear you. But he heard your voice a moment ago.
Why don't you just give her your phone for a minute, Dave?
Pardon me?
Why don't you just give her your phone for a minute?
Okay. Hold on. I have to come outside just a moment. So, Jen, if you would step out here, he would just like to, because the phone was...
Yeah. Hello.
Well, welcome to Heartland, young lady. We're delighted you're there.
Thank you. It's very hot.
Well, how was your flight over? Long?
Long, yes, and it was good. It was actually really, really good. It was long and tiring, but it was great.
And the boys did well on the journey?
They did so well. They're probably better travelers than we are.
Oh, good. So did that answer make sense for you on keep a little bit of your anger just in case?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
But I'm wondering if there's some type of transformation where it's not anger, but it's maybe some type of power to act. Where
I would.
But in a constructive way. So I think if I've been angry because someone's doing something that I don't like to me, rather than that being anger, I will transform to more of a power to act, to speak for myself and make better choices, that type of thing.
So does the idea that in our true being in love we have 360-degree vision, and if you put a pair of blinders on and you're down to 40-degree vision, you're going to have less choices and less possibility. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Then what would convince us to accept trickery that a set of blinders would ever serve us? I would offer you have far more intelligence and far more power. You go back to Yeshua. He says, be as a child. Such as this is the kingdom of heaven. It's where intelligence, it's where our true human smarts are. And putting a set of blinders on and saying, now I'm going to be more powerful. If there's something happening that I don't like, I'm going to have far more intelligence and far more power connected to a state of being in love to address and move through the things I don't like that I'm going to have when I'm in hostility or fear. And the world has taught us, that's the only way you can really protect yourself. Excuse me? I'd offer that your true human intelligence, the active presence of love, is going to be 1,000 times more clear, 1,000 times more possible than any state of hostility or fear. That would be my offering.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Because out of hostility and fear, it's always, it's always a regret. It's always like, that's when I did something that I regretted. If you go back, there's a statement in, I forget where it is, but where the Pharisee invites Yeshua in to dinner, and Yeshua doesn't wash his hand, and the Pharisee says, "Oh, whoa, what's wrong with you? This is, an abomination." And Yeshua, gives us a really clear definition of a Pharisee. And what he says is, you Pharisees may clean the outside of the cup and the platter, but inside you're filled with hostility and fear. And his whole invitation is for us to get out of the pharisaical mind, out of the trickery of the pharisaical mind, and get back to a mind connected to love, a true human life 24/7, 365. And I think that, that's kind of like our created state, and it's where we're designed to live. And the non-being world, the world of hostility and fear, says, no, come over here with me, agree with me here. Affirm what I think is true that hostility and fear will serve. And, I just offer that I know that, let's say I'm in a conversation where I have a conflict with somebody. If I go into some sort of hostility, I'm never as smart as I am when I'm soft and connected to love. I'm never as intuitive. I'm never as functional as I am when I'm connected to a state of being. But the world has convinced us that this hostility and fear stuff is what will really get you what you want.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. Yeah. Cool. Well, we're delighted that you're there,
Michael.
And we really, really look forward to getting to hang out and spend some time with you. It's delightful to have you visiting with us from all the way back over the seas in England. It's cool.
Yeah. Thanks for answering my question.
Okay, blessings. Delighted.
Thank you.
Michael?
Oh, yes. Yes, David.
Along that same line, I'm just taking it off of speaker. One of my biggest challenges and overcoming my dissociated mind and my understanding of the programming that's been given me is that in order to feel better, I've been taught that if I'm feeling something, it's because of something that I did, versus that when I'm feeling it, then I do the behavior. And that's a real challenge, I think, in the culture, because the culture implies that if you hadn't done this, you wouldn't have felt this way. If you would just change what it is that you're doing, then you will feel different. And so that transition of getting it that as soon as I'm feeling something, that then I'm locked into that feeling, that hostility or fear or disappointment, sadness, whatever, and then I behave from that versus, I did something and now I feel this way because I did this. And for me, that's a real challenge, because there's so much conversation in the culture is taught that just that opposite. I mean, even if as a child, first thing that comes to my mind is when a child is crying and are sulking, I'll give you something to cry about. Wait a minute, there's already that. Or give you something, you're being angry, stop what it is that you're doing so you won't be angry. And it's just so backwards with it, and it's quite a challenge to make that shift in mind to recognize that. And as you pointed out, that each time that whenever I'm in that space, then that is my lowest level. I'm going to be really getting answers from my past rather than creating and doing something new right in that moment. So
right. Well, over the years of working with this work, it's become really clear to me that when somebody, say, for instance, programs a child through guilt, because we're energetic beings, guilt, I think, is one of the best examples of what you're saying, David, and that is that if somebody programs a child, now, if you do this, you're going to be really bad and wrong and guilty, then that bad and wrong and guilt energy becomes what amplifies whatever this is and makes it attractive to the child. The child's attracted to energy. The child wants to feed on energy. And so once the guilt's instilled, it's the guilt that becomes the attractive feature. Remove the guilt, and whatever it is not going to be nearly as attractive. And the world tells us that we can't survive without this hostility and fear. And the truth is, it's the only thing that kills us. There are energies that simply do not belong within the human system. Time for us to give them up. Time for us to be free of it.
And as you talk about, in order to do that, I have to go through that energy, those feelings, to actually feel them, and at the same time connect with my inner guidance. So it almost, it's kind of like being outside and inside at the same time. You and you've talked about that several years ago that when hostility filter or fear filter is activated, then holding the space of love will, what I call, convert or transform that energy. And to be able to do that, to strengthen the love filter so that I can, I think the way that you talk about it, it might be from second to second to second, then that is the only way for me to dissolve that, and I must feel it, rather than to even justify the feeling or even find it out. You know, I spent a lot of years and time, and well vested because of the fact that it's taken me to the place of where it is that I am today with the understanding of it, that just because that I can understand or know where something originated, sometimes that's helpful, and often, though, I could spend the rest of my life finding out where everything originated from, and or I can just let go of it.
Yeah. And, of course, forgiveness is that letting go, is that removal of that. And, you know, every authority in the world wants us to keep our blinders on. You know, it's just like the horse. The horse is a great slave. It does exactly what its master wants it to do when the blinders are on. Much, much more difficult to control if you take the blinders off. Well, it's the same with humans. You know, the worst prison to be in is the one you don't know that you're in. And if you're imprisoned by hostility and fear, if everywhere you turn you're imprisoned by hostility or fear, your vision is reduced immeasurably. The hormones that are being formed within your structure are key to killing the cells of your body. Those energies literally produce death hormones. And so to recognize that it's being plugged into the active presence of light and love that is actual human life, and the work is to remove everything that is unlike that. You go back to Yeshua, and he makes such a point of it that he says, this is the first law. If you think of neighbor, if you think of the Creator, if you think of self, you must maintain this condition of love, maintain a human life. That's where you're most intelligent. That's where you're most functional. There will never come a situation where hostility or fear will be more profound and more powerful for you than the active presence of love. And there's a powerful example in the movie Gandhi. If you haven't seen that film, it's an awesome film. But Gandhi is leading the people of India into a non-cooperation situation with the British, who were some of the worst human rights abusers the planet have ever seen. When they go into another country, the human rights abuses were as bad as any country on the planet is right now. I mean, they just slaughtered the indigenous people. It was just horrendous. And so Gandhi, when they want him to fight in order to get the British out, he's like, excuse me, these people have got more guns and more military know-how and more power than we'll ever even start to think of having. Forget it. It's not going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to be the active presence of love. We are going to stay centered and non-resistant. We're not going to cooperate with or support their insanity, but we will not raise a finger. And he gives a very instructive face. And he says, if we do this, then sooner, he says, we're going to take some blows. There are those of us who will get killed. And he says, I'm willing to die for this. He says, I am not willing to kill anybody for it, but he says, I'm willing to die for this. And he says, we'll take our blows, we'll have our injuries, we'll have our deaths, but sooner or later, one who does insanity, such as was being done at that time, will see the meaning of their insanity and stop. And pretty much he single-handedly moved Britain out of the country. He sat at a conference table with them, and he said, they said, well, one of the generals says, well, what do? You expect us to just leave? And, of course, the British at that point were pretty intense. No offense, Les and Jen, but they were pretty entrenched in India. And Gandhi says, yes, you will voluntarily leave. And he says, I want you to leave as my friend. I'm not going to cooperate with your insanity. I'm not going to support anything you're doing. you want us to work for you? Excuse me, we're going to stop. We're just not going to do it. And go ahead, beat up on us. And, there's some pretty heavy-duty scenes where they're beating these people mercilessly, shooting. It's just insane. And finally, as Gandhi said, they'll see the intelligence of letting go and leaving. And that's exactly what they did. So, when you get a violent, hostile, and fearful-based mind, it loves. If it's the one with more weapons and more strength, it loves resistance. And Gandhi, again, instructively said, if we go into the same fight as they are, they're stronger than we are, we'll just inflame their anger, and there'll be more of it. If we live as the presence of humans in love, sooner or later they're going to have to drop it. And Jeannie tells me that we have a caller on the line.
Hello?
Hi, Nene.
Nene, hi.
Well, hey there, young lady. How are you?
Blessed and happy and very, very satisfied and very happy.
Well, we so much appreciate you, one, for picking us up yesterday to take us down to Chrome Avenue in South Miami, where we did a Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop in a center where they work with, it's actually a pretty awesome place.
Very nice.
The artists come to support immigrant children and sexually abused children with art. And we had some people from Juilliard that were there yesterday, and it was so awesome. We divided the space in two, and I was on one side of a divider wall teaching Why Is This Happening to Me Again in English, and Nene did her first full Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. Share with us how that all felt, Nene, for you. It was awesome.
Yes, thank you. And say hello, Jeannie, and hello to David. It was an extremely wonderful experience because I started with you, Mike, and I understood a lot even better now what we're doing, being from this part of the scene. And it became very, very clear to me in the exercise when we tell everybody to close their eyes and start thinking about the anxiety, the pain, and then the love. It became very, very clear to me what we're talking this afternoon. It's about it's only you who are in a state of anxiety or hostility or love who can produce what is produced, the experience that is produced. So for me, it was just extraordinary to be on the other side and see how each one of the questions represents one explanation. And then I was completely in every cell of my being and of my every whole self to be responsible. I could see, because each time one person went from one sensation to the other, from one thought to the next, I could see how their faces, how their bodies moved, how their expression. I could even feel the frequency, how it changed until, when we break finally into the baby, into the newborn, the true essence. But it was extraordinary for me to be able to express this in Spanish because it's,
well, it was certainly awesome. Every time I looked over there, you were just glowing as you were presenting. I kind of led the workshop in English, and then there was a little bit of a time delay, and Nene would just take the ideas and express them in Spanish. So there's, a fairly large group of people there doing the worksheet in Spanish and the whole workshop, and it was just fabulous. And by the way, for those who haven't looked, the book is on our website, free in Spanish. We can download Why Is This Happening to Me Again. We're actually doing some work to improve that translation. And the worksheet, the 7-step worksheet, is in Spanish, thanks to Nene. And there's some other things that she's put. So there's a Spanish section. If you go to whyagain.com, you can click on Spanish. And we just recently, and we haven't got it pointed yet to the right page, but we just recently got the whyagain.com, and I forget what the words are in Spanish, but whyagain.com in Spanish. So people will be able to put whyagain.com in and go to our Spanish page. And so the worksheets are there, the book's there in Spanish, and Your help, Nene, has been awesome in getting that translated, and also Claudia and Dr. Sridhan Andraki out in Las Vegas have done a lot of work to do that, and so it was pretty cool day.
Yep, wonderful. Yeah, and I thank you for the opportunity and for this new world for myself, and I'm ready to give more and more of myself to the world.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to doing more of that English-Spanish work when we're in Florida next winter as we tour southward, and we get to do more places. There was one other place, I don't know whether you know, but there was a woman there who was a therapist and said, "Gee, would you come and do this at our center?" And so it's pretty exciting to watch it go into that community and the healing space that it brings. It's really, really fabulous, and your support being there, doing it in Spanish, we're doing English. It's kind of like, a dream come true to have that open and move this work into more and more languages on a very practical level.
Very good. So I look forward to seeing you very soon.
And what was the highlight for you in the process, Nene?
Yesterday?
In teaching it yesterday, and you teaching it in Spanish while I did it in English on the other side of the room.
Yeah, well, it was, at one moment I felt so confident of what I was saying, and I saw these people so connected and so open, and I understood that this is a greater truth, and for me it was just like, okay, here I am, conjugated everything that I've done in my life with my languages, my studies, my body language, my opening to the public in the camera, and I'm conjugated all my talents to give into this space of love and creating, this space of love for more families. So I felt very, very honored and very happy to finally conjugate everything that I am to become more and allow other people to become more of who we truly are.
Right. Fabulous. It was just fabulous. I hope that next year we'll be able to get it on video, and we're working on that. Dr. Andraki has set it up, and we're actually working an outline, and his wife Claudia is going to do the workshop in Spanish. And yesterday, a lot of times it looks like you were just flying along. You didn't need me at all. You were just on go. Yep. So it'll be fun to have you at teachers training this summer to go through that process and bring it forward to the world.
Yeah, it flew very nicely. I could even say my little jokes in Spanish, that our culture, our expressions, and, they laughed. Very, very nice. I'm very proud of myself, I could say.
Well, we're proud of you, too, and much appreciation for it. It was just amazing.
Yep. Yeah.
So do you have any other questions for us or anything else to share today?
Not today. I'm just, flowing in this in my serenity and my joy. I'm very, very thankful. I'm just planning more how to do this more and how to organize myself to use, the media and everything that I have in my hand to promote the work more.
So if just for inspiration's sake for the listening audience, it's I acknowledge you so fully how when you arrived at our first workshop on January 2nd, you started doing worksheets that day, and you have continued since. So it's 6 months.
Yes.
And if you were to quantify, you just used the two words serenity and joy. If you were to think about a scale of 1 to 100, and the level of serenity and joy that you're referring to that you have today on that scale of 1 to 100, what would it be today, and what would it have been on January 2nd in your first workshop?
Well, that day would have been maybe number 5, and today 120. Yes.
Say it again. Today's what?
Like 120.
All right. That's awesome. That's quite a transformation in 6 months. You really are to be congratulated for how you have stuck to the tools and you've worked with them so diligently, and you're reaping the reward of it. And, anybody that's out there listening, if you go, gee, I'm not sure, I don't have much joy in my life. Well, here's firsthand verification. You've gone from a 5 to a 120 on a scale of 100. That's, wow. That's awesome.
Yes.
And it's not that your life is without challenges, right?
Yes, exactly. But I am very committed to just whatever happens to keep my peace and remind me it's my own faults, my own issues that create everything. So as long as I clean that, the experience is different for myself,
Fabulous.
of course.
Well, carry on, and we'll look forward to seeing you in July the 18th. Yep. We'll see you then, and we'll actually probably be calling you later today as well.
Yeah,
so
me
we'll
too. I want to discuss a couple of things later. Sure.
Okay. Well, we're going to be here. We leave here at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, so we're at the Regency in Hallandale. Maybe if you have the space, maybe if you want to come down and join us for dinner tonight.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay, well, you know where they are. Dinner's at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So if you want to come join us for dinner, that would be awesome.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you then.
I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Okay, blessings. Bye-bye. So that's the 6 months of work. And, it's we just, I love what we get to do in the world. To take these tools and to hand them to people who just pick them up and use them. It's mind-boggling, and one would say it's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It is the possible. And what you have to do in order to make it possible is be willing to do your work. And one of the things about this, what we've identified as the non-being mind, what we call the hostility and fear-based mind, is that it's inertia-bound. And if you remember the definition of inertia from physics class in high school, it says that a body moving in a particular direction at a particular rate of speed will continue to move in that direction at that rate of speed until it's acted upon by an outside force. So you have you have a multi-generational database that contains the thoughts, the feelings, the realities, the guidance of 1,000 generations. And that thing, if it's running your life has had lots of drama and trauma, and perhaps, as Nene just shared, maybe your life was moving along at a level 5 in terms of joy and serenity. If you take the tools and you become the outside force that begins to move that non-being mind, that inertia-bound mind, in a different direction, here's a young lady who's been very diligent about it. I mean, very diligent. And moving in 6 months from a 5 to 120 in joy and serenity is what can be done. We regularly see people on the verge of suicide take these tools and apply them, and we see them 2 days, 2 months, 2 years later, and they're in delight and joy about their lives and so thankful. Oh, my God, I'm so thankful I didn't commit suicide because this is such an awesome experience. But if you don't know that the problem is an inside job and that there are tools for changing it, there's a thing called forgiveness, to remove everything that doesn't belong in you. If you don't know it's there, you can't do it. When you do it, as Nene just said, she's moving into the best year yet of her eternal life. That's what we're here to support you in doing. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Mi-chael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Mi-chael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Mi-chael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.